Okay, so we've just put in 4 pieces or 3 pieces of glass. That one's done, trimmed, nailed off everything. Put the first one in down the bottom here. I just thought we'd do just a quick how-to of how I install glass. So first of all, we need our top trim ready so that when we get the glass in, we can just nail this off and hold the glass in place. But before we do that, we use silicone and run a bead all the way on this edge, all the way around, like so. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it oozes out of the top above, because we can just blade it off with a nice sharp knife next week once it's all dry. But the main aim of this is to stop water running down the glass and in behind the glazing bead. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you've got enough on there to hold the glass and keep water out. Because in the end, once the internal glazing bead goes on, you won't really see it anyway. Voila. So before we install the glass, we just put these rubber buffers in. It's actually like a weather seal for a door. It's not the actual one you would use. It's normally a really hard compound rubber that you would use for this, but it just creates a bit of a buffer for the glass to sit on, so it's not sitting on a hard surface. It's sitting on something soft, and it just creates a bit of a proper spacing between there and there. Handling glass, always wear gloves. Nearly forgot then. But it's amazing, you won't think it's sharp on the outside, but it's amazing how it can just slice through your hand without you even knowing. So glass in position, we angle the glass and rest it centered on the little rubber blocks. And then we just move it across till it comes up into position. And we just give it a little light push in place. So we've just stood this glass up and missed the middle block. And the reason why is because we had to cut these blocks quite small so that it doesn't impede on the glazing bead on the inside. And just because of the little bit of flex, it doesn't have to be much. When I was holding the glass on either end, it just caused it to miss that block, but it doesn't matter. We've got 1, 2 there anyway, and that'll be okay. And once I put the bead on, I'll just suck that in and then nail it off. We have our glazing bead ready to go, cut to length, and then when we install it, push it hard back towards the glass so we know it pushes on the other glazing bead on the outside and really compresses the silicone in. Then we just get our gun, nail again, pushing hard into the corner and up, and one more on this side, getting it in the final position. And that's it. So now we just cut the bottom, fit that, and measure and cut the sides, fit those. And that's it, folks. The glass on the fixed panels is all done. As the glorious sunshine comes through, we're in a bit of a race against time earlier. We had rain sheeting in and trying to silicone and keep the rain off and get the glass installed, all while keeping it all dry was tricky. But anyway, it's done. And the moment you've all been waiting for, what does it look like from the outside? Well, here you go. So when we talk about wet glazing, it means caulking in glass panels. Got all the glass panels down here. Because of the age of the frames, they're all slightly different sizes. So you need to allow a tolerance around each piece of glass. And that's different in, well, a lot of cases on these 4 sashes. So it's just a matter of working out which piece of glass goes where, and then we can wet glaze. All right, so that's done. Everything's distributed, but I had a casualty taking it out of the wrapping. Got them all in, and then like the third last one to go there, broken. So anyway, not to worry, I can get another piece. Won't even be €10, I don't think. So yeah, and they cut it on the spot, so that's good. And then we can wet glaze, but it won't stop me from doing the rest of them in the meantime. So yeah. Okay, so it's time to wet glaze. I picked up the glass this morning to replace the one that cracked out of the wrapping yesterday. So I've installed that. I've got my silicone set up in the gun. The way I like to do it is I just roughly measure how big the bead needs to be, and then I cut my nozzle on the 45 and then flatten it down. You can see I've sort of flattened it down right on the point with a bit of a hammer, and that gives it a nice, it actually makes the bead a little bit wider and flattens it out as you are running the bead. So it'll make more sense when I show you now. Okay, so we normally start in the corner. You can see there I've got a good overlap from the nozzle on the glass and a good overlap to the actual edge of the glazing. And just run that, start on the corner, and then just run it slowly and try and be consistent with it. And then when you reach about the midway point, stop there and start from the other end. And if there's some bigger gaps along the way, you can just slow it down and pump a bit more silicone into where you need to be. And that's that. Then you use this tool, which has got different widths. So 16 millimeters, 10 millimeters there. That's just square and that's curved. So in this case, I'm just going to test it out on there. It's going to be a bit too big. That one's going to be maybe too small. So I'll try this one, the curved one, and see what happens. And then you can run it along and you can see whether or not you've got enough silicone in the glazing perimeter. As you can see, it's coming up pretty good, so I just have to add a little bit more there, just so I can get contact with the tool. And then, yeah, overall, looks pretty good. And sometimes as well, you can cut or recut the nozzle a little bit bigger to suit what you need to do. But always make sure you never cut it too big, because you might have some smaller gaps. So it might pay sometimes to actually do all the smaller gaps first, and then you can cut your nozzle bigger. So you can always increase the size, but you can't reduce the size. And that's it, guys. First sash done. Now we just set and forget. So as you can see, pretty slick looking finish. Might be a few little overruns on the middle of the glass, but that can all just be cleaned up later with a little sharp blade, and then we can install the sashes. So on to the next three. Hopefully, fingers crossed, got enough silicone. So yeah, sit prep, definitely not enough silicone. I got 2/3 of the way through, and I'm probably one tube short. So I was able to get that one done, that sash done, and 2 panels of this one done, which leaves 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 tube per 4 glass panels, which, you know, you can never really tell. Probably should have just got enough in the first place and just had some surplus at the end, but not to worry, I can get some Monday and finish it off. Otherwise, all good, looking neat, and the other 2, well, the ones I've done, can actually start to cure and go up next week. So yeah. Okay, Monday. We're back. Finish off the wet glazing. This morning, I had to drive 5 minutes to get this. It's not the same as what I ran out of last week, but it's better than driving half an hour for effectively the same product. So we'll finish the wet glazing this morning, and then we can let these last 4 panels cure. And yeah, we'll be ready to hang the sashes, and that will be all. So last week, when we were doing the other sashes over there, I talked about this called wet glazing. And you probably wondered, well, where's the wet part of the glazing element come into it when it's just caulking? Well, the glazing part is obviously because we're dealing with glass, and the wet glazing technically happens when you run the bead of caulk, and then you have a solution, like it might be warm water with dishwashing liquid or something. You spray onto the bead, and then you use your tool or your finger, whatever your preference is, to smooth the bead out and make it all nice and neat. And what the dishwashing liquid and the warm water does is it gives it a much sort of cleaner finish without getting it onto the glass, but that sort of more or less applies when you are dealing with bigger caulking cavities. So in this case, it's only quite small, and the bead's quite small, as you saw, so there's not really much need. And especially when you've got a tool like this, you can get it quite neat. Look, there might be a little bit of cleanup on the glass, but with a sharp razor blade, you can normally get that quite neat in the end. And I think so far this is working quite good. So anyway, enough talking, let's continue and get all these done. Well, I'm no professional caulker, but I have to say that's a pretty professional looking job. Give me a thumbs up in the comments if you think so as well. Okay, so the wet glazing, complete. We'll just let those last 4 panels cure. The rest of them are already cured, but we just got to give them a nice little once over, clean off any sort of smears of silicone on the glass, and then we can hang them. That means the window job is coming to an imminent close, which is good. So that's that. Oh, and also you might have seen on my community feed, I posted a story that I've received a mask for the dust mask for the barn doors. I can finally finish that, so I'll get to model that for everyone soon, which you might get a laugh out of. So yeah, lots to do this week, so best I crack on. Okay, so the sashes have all been caulked, the glass is caulked in, they're all dry, ready to hang, so come with me and we'll hang them all now.
Just hang the two that done.
One's got a bit more weight in it because of the hardware. So the first set of sashes are hung, closed, locked, and they work perfectly. I've just put the second set on now, and let's have a closer look at how the Espanolette bolt works. So comes down effectively and hooks around. So first set of sashes are hung. I've just put the second set up. Got a little helper out here waiting to be closed out unless she makes her way in now. But I just wanted to close this video series out by giving everyone a little closer look at how these windows function with regard to how they fit together when they close, and of course the Espanolette bolt hardware. So obviously when this goes together, they need to close on one another, and because these are very, very old sashes, they're not entirely true. So a little bit of manipulation to get them to line up. Then you're just pretty much pushing them all the way home. You can use that even. And then you can bring the hardware around handle and loop it over this little hook here. And like we saw in earlier videos, that just latches inside the mortise hole there, and the same in the top. And no play at all. So really rock solid. And yeah, that kind of finishes it off. So it's been a good little project, and it's made an enormous and profound difference to this room. The walls come down in the middle. Steve and I had previously shored up all of these ceiling joists, and then there'll be a suspended ceiling coming down from there. But that's for another time. And just about this entry door, I've scraped it all back, as I've previously said. It's all keyed in, ready to paint. But I kind of like the patina the way it is now. So still undecided about whether or not it gets painted. Kind of needs to be lifted up. It's dropped slightly on the latch side. And I have got some glass, some clear glass I will silicone in to that opening as well. But other than that, not much else to really see there. And just looking from the outside, there's still a little bit of painting touch-ups to do, but all in all, highly successful. And this room can now be used again. Anyhow, thanks for watching all these guys, and I appreciate the support. Any comments you wish to leave, feel free to do so. I will get back to you. And yeah, I'll talk to you in the next one. Go well.